Okay, welcome. Can you all see my screen? Yes, good. So I'm really glad you're here. This topic is one Sherry asked me when I first got on the call, what was the impetus for me doing this? So I think that's where I want to start. I have been working for a couple of years with a client where the term leadership is used as a scapegoat, as a cuss word, um, as a big generalization. And as I was thinking about this, I thought back over my career, starting as a Scrum Master and eventually moving into coaching and enterprise coaching and teaching and consulting. And I was feeling a lot of empathy for myself at the beginning because I didn't get any significant coaching or direction about how to work with the various leaders that were in my space. And when I started as a brand new, shiny, clean, uh, spiffy Scrum Master who was so enthusiastic about Scrum, I was so enthusiastic that at protecting teams that I managed to get myself fired. So I think this gaining skill working with leaders is an ongoing process through someone's career. And what I've done is bring together some very simple ways of thinking about this in the hopes that together we can share some ideas about what works and what doesn't. These models that I'm working on that I brought to you today will help you have a mental model for thinking about where people are in the organization and what kind of activities they're engaged in and what their concerns and challenges might be given that as a start for gaining empathy with them. So as we go, please feel free to interrupt me if the screen needs to be larger or if you have a question. This is intended to be a casual and playful time. I want you to bring your curiosity because even if you've seen these models before, and I think maybe most of you have not seen at least one of them, I want you to go a little bit deeper and to think about what you might take away and use tomorrow. And this is just intended to be food for growth, for your growth mindset, things to re-inspire you as you go back to work. This content is intended for you as working agilists, scrum masters, coaches, product managers, whatever role you're in. I would ask that you not just turn around and represent this without deep diving into the material, because I'd like you to really have had some time to glean it. But in terms of today, this is just for you, and you will continue to have access to this board, so you can go back and pull anything off of it that you want. Any questions before we start? Okay. You should all be summoned to follow me. You can break away anytime you want. But this is my way of keeping some control over what you're looking at. You have a choice of looking at this either on the mural board itself, because I'm presenting there, or you can watch the presentation here. So keep both open. These are instructions for using mural for those of you who haven't done it before. The most important piece here I want you to look at is how to navigate using the outline. So if you look in the screen up here, I need to get this out of the way. Is this toolbar in your way? Can you see this closed? There we go. So this icon right here with the three dots and the three lines lets you look at the outline with the view that I'm looking at. And so if you click on part of it, it will take you to a new place. And you can also go back if you want to refer to the mural instructions. So we're going to start right off with an exercise getting you talking to each other and practicing with mural. So Sherry's going to set up breakout rooms for us. And what does it look like, Sherry? Do we want 3, 4 people in a room?
We could do that. I think 4 actually might be better with the math.
Okay.
Let me just see. Hold on.
And
Wait, hold
remember,
on.
we have some people who are going to stay in the main room for the recording, and they're going to do their work there. Did you get those names?
Yes.
Okay.
I'm just gonna try 8 rooms and we'll see how that all, oh, well, let's just do 7 rooms so that some of the people will stay here.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
And so when you're in the room, you're going to have 7 minutes, which is hopefully going to feel like a long time. Get to know each other. Here are some questions you could ask if you like. You're not required to ask these, but just make sure everybody gets a chance to talk and introduce themselves. And also, this is your chance to practice putting a sticky note onto the board. And so you go up here to this icon, you pull a sticky note over, you drop it in the box, and don't worry, the box will expand to hold all of the sticky notes that go there. And in that box, just write the name, the title of your favorite leadership book or podcast. Okay, questions about what we're doing?
I'm still assigning people, so.
Okay. Okay, people are playing with stickies. That's great.
And if you guys could all remember your breakout rooms so that you guys can go back to those rooms.
Okay, great.
And then for those of you who are going to be staying here in the main room, we'll, okay, open all the rooms. We will have people that are going to stay here in the main room.
Okay, so I'm trying to share the link for the mural. Why is it not letting me do that?
Let me see if I can.
Yeah, I just let a new person in. So,
Thank you.
yep.
Yeah,
Okay.
I don't know why everyone in the meeting. Okay. Yeah. Okay.
There we go. Thank you.
Yep.
Okay. And so for the person who just came in, we're doing this exercise. Sherry's setting up the breakout rooms, and we are also practicing mural. And so the link to the mural board just got put in chat. And you can go in and practice putting a sticky note into this box. So the sticky notes are on the left nav. And in that sticky note, we want you to put the title of your favorite leadership book or podcast. I'm going to move Think Again by Adam Grant up because I like watching things move around in the box. Okay, how are we doing on the rooms, Sherry?
The rooms should be open. You guys should be able to join.
If anybody has trouble, please just holler and we'll help you get into them. Okay, so I'm seeing.
Oh, I have you in the, yeah, we're gonna.
Okay.
I accidentally had you in one of these, so.
Oh, okay. Oh yeah, I'm not going to join that.
Yeah, no worries, sorry.
So it looks like people are going in. Great.
Yeah.
And so let's start here in the room. I'm going to stop sharing just so we can see each other's beautiful faces. And Taz, are you staying in the big room with us, or do you want to go into a private room?
I was trying to figure out how to get to the big room. It's kind of like Miro, but I've never used it before. So I'm just like, I couldn't find the where to add, where to jump into the other rooms. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
You,
Oh, go ahead, Sherry.
I can move you to a room, Taz, if you'd
Oh,
like.
Sure, that's fine.
Okay,
I'm
let me
happy
do that.
anyway.
Okay,
I found
let
the
me,
sticky notes or yeah. Okay, cool. Thank you.
Okay. So it looks like Jason got assigned to a room. So it looks like it's Jane. Who else is here to be recorded for the exercise? Or are these folks who are just not participating? Lori, are you there?
I am here, but I'm on my phone, and so there's no way I could participate on Miro.
Oh, okay, that's fine. This one is really a conversation. So do you mind playing?
Can I just listen?
No, I want to know what the last cool thing is you read, saw, or watched.
Oh boy. Okay.
Yeah, you can think about it for a minute if you want.
This is Bill Sutherland, and I'm kind of in the same boat. I just have a phone and can't jump around. So if
Okay.
you don't mind, I'll just stay here.
Okay, that's fine.
Good.
So do
And
you,
favorite leadership book,
Yeah.
Leading Change by John Cotter.
oh
I-
yeah, yeah, great. How about you, Jane?
The latest book is a little bit controversial. It's called The Subtle Art of Not Giving an F. I think I've read plenty of other leadership books, and I think this is a healthy perspective for me right now at this phase of life.
That's great. That's great. Last cool thing I saw was a webinar by the Cotter Institute. And it was going into all the sources. It was a guy from the IMF, the International Monetary Fund, who was presenting on uncertainty and the sources of uncertainty and actual data worldwide showing that uncertainty is going up.
Was that eye-opening or what?
Did you see it?
I don't think I slept the night after I was. Where should I go? Anyway, so yes, it was interesting. So,
Yeah, terrific. Okay, Lori, we've given you time to think. What's the last cool thing? It doesn't have to be leadership or Agile related that you read, saw, or watched. Did we lose her?
No, you didn't lose me. I'm just jumping around some different windows. I was just looking in my Audible library to look at the last thing that I listened to. The last book that I have put my fingers to is the Agile coaching book that was written by Lisa Adkins. I constantly pick that up and put it down, read a couple chapters, go back to it. I'm also reading the Agile guide that was published by PMI and the Agile Alliance.
Mhm.
The last interesting thing that I watched was a show on Hulu called Trafficked, and it's about this journalist that just goes around to different countries and gets into these underworlds of scamming and drug trafficking and people trafficking. It's really fascinating.
That's cool. That's my jam. I'll look for it.
I
Sure.
think it's in Hulu, and it's a whole series of just the underworld, and she goes in there and she just talks to all these really seedy people.
So you're saying you like romantic comedies, right?
I do, but I like this stuff too.
Okay, so I've lost track of how much time we have left, but let's just talk about what's going to happen with this room because we have people who are on their phones, which is fine. We can make this work, especially if I, for the future exercises, share my screen and we can just talk through things together. 4 seconds, 4 minutes?
4 minutes.
We're 4 minutes in? Okay. Yeah, so people are having good conversations. And if you're okay with that, I'm happy to run that for the sake of the recording so that people can have a sense of how these exercises work. And Jane, since you're on a desktop, you can help me. Okay. And so I want to check on the people who we haven't heard from. Tracy, are you there? Tracy Hughes?
Yeah. Hi. I this is my first time using Mural, and I'm searching everywhere for a room, how to get into a room. So that's that.
Oh, okay, that's all right. So the breakout rooms are in Zoom. And so we'll just keep you in this room with us if you'd like to stay here.
Alrighty.
Okay. And I love seeing you, even if it's not your favorite angle, because it makes this all more personal. Did you want to share the last cool thing that you read, saw, or watched?
Um, I've been reading Atomic Habits. I'm really late to that. I know that's been popular for many years. And I'm reading a book for fun, Remarkably Bright Creatures. It's not a leadership book, but it's
Oh,
really well written. So
that's a fun title.
Mm.
Okay, great. So you won't have to worry about the rooms. Mural, the link was in chat. Did you see that?
yes, I found that.
Okay. And you should be able to get in as an anonymous animal.
Yes, I'm a lobster.
Okay, all right. And then if you need instructions, there's mural instructions in the outline. So you can
Oh, okay, I
look at
gotcha.
that. Okay. Um, so who else have we not heard from? Philip, everybody, Philip is my partner. He does not have a microphone on his computer. He just wanted to see me work. So he will be the ghost here. He's actually quite handsome and he's hanging out with my cat right now. So don't worry, he's not a creeper. He's good energy and support here.
Oh,
Stephen?
now, Philip, you really got to come on camera now, since Eric is talking about how handsome you are and everything. Yeah, we got to see your face. Come on, you want to come on camera, right?
I want to see.
I just
Yeah.
saw the top of his head.
Yeah, that was intentional, I'm sure. So he's messing with you. Okay, so there's some, hello, Philip. Wave. Oh, there you go. You got to take a screenshot and look at it that way. He's
I
in the,
just want to. I just want to see the cat.
oh, okay. Well, Philip, you have your assignment. Oh, is she on the couch? Okay, so Stephen has no camera or microphone. So he's just going to hang out, and that is fine. Stephen, thanks for letting us know. So he's been reading the leadership books by John C. Maxwell. Okay, so we've heard from Bill. Stephen, we know about. Philip, we know about. Tracy, we've seen for a minute. Lori, you going to turn on your camera for me? Because you're my friend.
Girl, I am a hot mess right now.
That's all right.
I think I should introduce myself.
Oh, great. Thank you, Nicole. You were next on my list.
Okay. Yes, I'm Nicole. I am reading The Age of AI by Henry Kissinger.
Oh,
Pretty interesting.
Henry Kissinger. Really?
Yes. Yes, he is a diplomat. So I can't believe he's writing books. Well, he's co-publishing a book.
Is
You
he
know,
still
he must be
alive?
like 90 years old.
Is he still alive? Wow.
Yes. Yes.
Wow.
He's well preserved. And Rojo, what's happening with you? Are you able to talk or chat or engage or turn on your camera? Okay. We will consider Rojo. We can't hear you if you're talking. We'll consider this just another blank face in the mix. This is an experiment having the people in the main room. Yay, Lori, look at how awesome her glasses are. We love seeing you. Thank you.
So we are at our time box. Do you want me to broadcast a message for people to return?
Yeah, or just pull them back in.
Okay.
It's up to you.
Jane, I'm loving your hair. I got pink in mine.
Nice. I dig it. Mine's been the COVID on for a few years now. If you do it this way, you never have to keep up with it.
It looks cool.
I just wish I had hair.
You wish you had hair? Now, come on, bald men are sexy. You're good. You're golden. Okay. I can't even see you, and I know this.
Yeah, me and Telly Savalas, right? Mhm.
Okay, it
Super
looks like we're getting folks back. So, and more people coming in. It's like chaos. It's like my house parties. So good. How did that go? Everybody okay on mural? That's my main concern. Okay, and you know some people now, and they were okay. They might have even been awesome. Okay, good. And so what we're doing on this mural is we're collecting some data. And so if you haven't read all the leadership books or blog or podcasts that are there, and there's something that might interest you, you can come back and refer to this. So thank you for that. I'm going to share my screen again. Okay. And so let's talk about who I am. So this is one of the best selfies I've ever taken of myself because I'm just too lazy to get professional photography. My nose looks a little bigger because it's a selfie, but my hair looks good, doesn't it? And so here's my Agile credentials. And you can see the companies that I've worked with over the years and all my certifications and that I've been doing this for a long time and my website. The question is that does that really encompass me? And the answer is no. So this is a better description of who I am. And you will see this very cute picture of me in the center. I'm using this right now in some self-compassion work. I'm looking at this picture multiple times a day right now. I'm the big one, the little one is my sister. And these are things that are really important characteristics about me. I do love dressing up more than life itself. And if you've ever worked with me, I'm pretty boring at work, so you wouldn't necessarily know this. This is my Pomeranian Poppy. I think I get to, yes, I can do the laser pointer. So there she is. She is incredibly fierce. This is my Shiner that I got just by falling and hitting my eye on someone's shoulder. And then I had to work like that. So I had a quick journey to Mac. This is my friend Colleen, who has terminal cancer. So that's part of my life. Here's me as the co-chair of Mile High Agile. This was after the conference and we were getting quite tipsy. These are my grandparents, lovely German grandparents. These are my hippie parents. And so some people have called me a leader, and I want to point out that, there's a lot more to me than that term. Also, there is, oh, this one's locked too. I have other things that happen for me, and these, I hope, are things that happen to you as well. So I can be quite anxious, something I work to manage all the time. I definitely have imposter syndrome. You might not feel like it today, but some people here have seen this. I'm often unsure of the next steps, and I'm trying to sort out what that looks like. And if I get anxious, I can be controlling. I think Lori can probably attest to that. I'm sure there was a moment or two when we worked together. So the point here is that if you label me, this is the actual quote from Kierkegaard, but it's often misquoted as, once you label me, you negate me. So I actually like the original quote a lot better because it has the word system in it. So you put me in a system, an organization, an agile community, a country, a family unit, and you are likely to negate some of the fundamental characteristics that I care about. And when we use big words that are symbols like leader, it further negates people. So the point here is that, and if you take nothing from this talk other than this, stop calling them leadership. It is not an effective shorthand if what you're wanting to do is be a solid change agent. So what we're going to talk about with these models is how can you start the process of understanding their needs. So your mission, our mission, collective mission today, should you choose to accept it, is that we're going to explore a model for understanding these central concerns of people doing different organizational activities. And we're going to generate some ideas about empathizing with leaders' needs based on their sphere of responsibility. And together we're going to compile some tips for coaching leaders at different levels. So some of you, I had a really interesting conversation on LinkedIn with a very nice coach who I would put in the idealist camp. He wants to talk about teal organizations. He wants to talk about flat organizational structures. He wants to talk about generative cultures, all of which are very dear to my heart. And he has this kind of core question about whether we need leaders at all. And I would like to propose that that's not the question. The question that we should be asking is, how do we work with the leaders that we have? In every transformation or agile implementation that I've been part of, there have been leaders, and they've been a crucial part of the process. So if you're into the intellectualization about what do we do, how would the world be without leaders, that's fine, but it's not what you want to bring to work as a change agent. You want to be working where you are. So one of the things that helps us think about this is this thing called the results pyramid. There's a lot of deep thinking behind this, but the general idea here is that if you want to get results, if you stay up, I get to use the laser pointer again. If you stay up above the culture plane and you focus on actions that are trying to drive results, you are missing some of the foundational things that are important for people to effectively have a culture that helps them produce, helps them be generative, and helps them work in a way that's effective. So a lot of people spend their time focusing on actions to get results. But if you're trying to create change, you need to move down into this area. You want people to have different experiences that create different beliefs from which they act. So you're likely to get more congruence if you can help people have different experiences that change their point of view, rather than just asserting that they need to take these actions. It's more resonant and more effective at driving change. So we talk about this area down here as being the realm of leadership. So if you are leading a group of people, especially through change, you want to create experiences for them that will help them shift their beliefs. Up here, this is more the realm of management. We need both. You can't have just one or the other. But, and so the people that we call leadership, that term you're not supposed to use anymore, will be doing all of these things and focusing on all of these sections. So this can be a useful way to talk about that. Here's another triangle that is completely unrelated to the last triangle, but in business, we like to use a lot of different shapes to indicate things. This is the seam model developed by Esther Derby, and I've been playing around with this for several years now. I'm going to give you a very superficial version of this, but there are links here and there are links in the resources at the end where you can listen to Esther herself talk about this in some depth. If this resonates for you at all, I would definitely recommend doing that. The idea is that there are three main concerns of an organization. So steering, which is pretty self-explanatory. We'll go into these in a little more depth in a minute. Enabling, enhancing, and making. And so the idea is that down at the making level, where people are hands-on building the products or services that the company is selling and giving to customers to build that relationship, needs to be supported by these other activities. Enabling and enhancing is primarily about creating the right environment for the makers to thrive in. And steering is about those high order things like mission and purpose. Who are we? Why are we? What's our position in the marketplace? That sort of thing. Now, the thing to remember about this is that this is a fractal. And these activities can happen at any level in the organization. So at the team level, you would have these same three concerns, and that and so people working with these different activities are going to have different things that they're focused on. So here's a great picture of a fractal for those of you who don't know what it is. The idea is that the smallest portion of this is repeated again and again, and it builds the largest, and that the largest version looks exactly like the smallest version. This is a mathematical concept. So what we're going to do is go back into breakout rooms, and we're going to do this exercise now. So this is number 11 on the outline. If you've been journeying around and seeing what the rest of the canvas looks like. Come back to 11. You'll have 7 minutes again, as you felt that's a pretty long time. And what I want you to generate here is a list of the pain points that you've seen for these different areas. So for the people who are steering and doing the high level mission, who are we, what are we, kind of work, what are their pain points? What are their challenges? For those who are trying to pull together teams of teams and coordinate and build environments that are effective and healthy for the makers, what are their concerns? And for the makers, what kind of pain points do they have? So questions about what we're doing. Okay, so you'll pull, oh, yep, go ahead.
I have a question about how we're doing. Is the board just for those cool people in the main room, or?
No, the board, we've been putting the link for the board in chat. So check chat, click on the link for the mural board, and you should be able to sign in as an anonymous animal. Is that working for you? That was Jason, right?
Yes, so we're all just in break rooms, but we're all using the same.
All using the
exercise
same
board.
board, yes.
All
And so
right.
this is different than you've probably done in the past, because I want to get the group gestalt. So you will have a lot of cursors moving around. You may have to navigate a little bit. You might want to pull some from the stack here and make your own little stash and pull it off to the side. I'd like you to leave the orange colors kind of at the top, the pink colors kind of at the middle, and the green colors kind of at the bottom to represent the 3 areas of concern. And so again, what you're doing is talking to each other and figuring out what some of those pain points that you've seen are that are associated with these different activities. Other questions? Okay. It is totally fine to read what other people are writing and riff off of it. In fact, I encourage it. Okay, let's start the breakout rooms.
Are you guys able to see and join the breakout rooms, or do I need to move you guys in?
Last time I got a button that said join, I pushed it. It was magic.
I clicked on the breakout rooms thing on the bottom and it shows me the one I was in.
Yes.
Okay, just want to check. Is there anybody in the main room who would like to join room 1?
Yes, please. This is Nag. You can let me into room 1.
Okay, let me
Thanks.
move you there. Yeah.
Okay.
Assign.
And so as promised, we're going to do this. I will be the scribe for people who are just on their phone and can't engage with Mural. Anybody in this main room who can get onto the Mural board and pop things in, go ahead and do that. But let's do a verbal readout of what you're thinking. So what's pulling you first? Do you want to talk about steering or a different section? Lori, you're muted.
I think a pain point for steering would be like what is inhibiting our growth, possibly. It
Yeah.
just seems like they're really focused on growing and how to mediate that.
Great. So growing at the organizational level.
Yeah.
Yeah, terrific. What else?
I'm thinking along the lines of strategy as steering develops strategy for the rest of the organization. The challenge is to get everybody to understand that strategy and apply it to their area, and that in every organization I've ever been in, that usually fails.
Yeah, that's huge. Okay. So there's a communication component, there's certainly an alignment issue. And how do you make that work?
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. What else?
Probably politics too, like people at their level, getting along, understanding each other, supporting one another instead of egos getting in the way.
Yeah. Okay. I put high level politics and egos. Does that work?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, I see that a lot. I agree with that.
Yeah. Okay, so there's things that other people are putting on here, funding via waterfall, traditional way of working. So finance is another potential pain point here. How are you funding the work? And how are you tracking your ROI? Okay, so let's move on to enabling, enhancing, unless somebody has something else for steering. What do you think happens here? So this is team of teams, coordinating, getting people moving in the same direction, creating a healthy environment. What kind of pain points do they have? What gets in the way?
Lack of focus.
Say more about that.
Just the focus in meetings and focus of work that we're trying to do, like, whatever team, like one of the companies I work with, like, I always try to focus on like one or two projects, and that was like frowned upon, like big time. They're like, no, you got to be working like on 3 or 4 or 5 things at once. And it's just like, you're always context switching. You're always trying to then align with other teams and other projects but when you have one clear goal and everyone's working at one clear goal, it's pretty easy to make progress. But when you're split, it's when it makes it really difficult.
Okay. Yeah, great. So I made two stickies based on what you said. I said lack of focus there's multitasking and context switching. And I also put a separate sticky for alignment with other teams. Is that reasonable? Or do you want them together?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay. What else?
I'm going to say that I've also seen a lot of, and I'm kind of thinking about like the middle management that as enabling or
Yep.
What's the word I'm looking for, that represents the enabling and enhancing, that a lot of people seem to be promoted above their level of competence. So you see a lot of undisciplined things going on because they don't have the skill, knowledge, or education to look at creating an organization that makes sense.
Okay. So I just put promoted above my level of competence. Did that capture it?
Yep. Thank you.
Okay.
We have 2 more minutes.
Okay, thank you. So given that, let's move on to making. So this is the team level. And so you would include the leaders of teams and the leaders of individuals, because this is not necessarily an agile construct. So we may not have all agile teams in an organization, and even in an agile organization, we may have people working individually. So what are the potential pain points there?
Lack of clarity and also lack of priority.
Okay, I see competing priorities over here. Can I just have that represent the priority?
Yeah, that's fine. And I added that to the layer above, but I think it exists at both levels.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, what else at the making level?
Also, timeline kind of related to that. this current company that I'm with, I'm seeing all of the big company bureaucracy, and things just take forever. Like, you know, you work within Scrum, we work on 2-week timeframes, and somebody's like, yeah, we can get to that, you know, probably about a couple weeks.
Okay, I put bureaucracy takes forever. What
Yes.
about, so some of the
Resources.
concerns at this level will be about team functioning. So what comes up for you there? What do you think the pain points are there?
I'll be honest. People come in the work, they're just there to collect a paycheck and then just go home. There's just
Like
really
truly-
no kind of,
We're at our time box.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's
And
great.
find
yeah,
work.
okay.
Yeah, good conversations, and you can come back in and add stuff if this is useful to think this way. And so now take the time to read what other people have written. You'll see some similar things and some things that are popping out that are very different. And some of them are very personal, like the idea of getting my voice heard or a seat at the table. That's about an individual leader who has an individual desire. So that's great. Do we have people back? Okay, I see Brad Swanson. I need to put this in gallery or something so I can see you all. I'm going to stop sharing just for a second. So what did you notice as you did that brainstorm? Anything?
There's common issues regardless of the across organizations. They're not all organization specific.
Yeah, okay, great.
I was actually going to say kind of the opposite, that there's very different concerns in some cases at those different levels. Some in common, some different. Oops, sorry.
Sorry, Brad.
Oh, go
We
ahead.
were saying that everybody points at everybody else.
Yeah, yes, finger pointing is often a symptom of not good alignment across these levels. So the way I think of it kind of in between those two things, I think there are connected needs that the organization has around, say, tying people to strategy, connecting the makers to strategy, or having alignment across the different levels with these different focuses so that things function as a whole. And so one of the things that Esther says about this is that you don't want your head disconnected from your hands, or things don't go well. For instance, eating would be incredibly difficult if your head and hands were disconnected. So I think that's part of what you're seeing is the connection between these different areas of concern in order to get functioning. And so you'll see things that reflect each other. What else did you notice? Did you feel like it was easier or harder to emphasize with the steerers versus the makers?
In my experience, I felt that it's easier with the makers.
Okay, same point. Why?
With the makers, and again, I'm not sure if my interpretation is correct as your visualization for the triangle is, but the makers, I'm thinking maybe they are at the team levels, the people who are actually doing the work.
Mm-hmm.
So with them, I have sometimes seen that it's easier to coach them or change them once you explain the whys, and they are more adaptable. I have seen. And the steerers, again, it could be because they have their own challenges. Maybe they are reporting to the topmost leadership, which is not, which is still steeped in the old ways of working or whatever. So with them, it's difficult to coach them or make them understand the value of doing certain things a certain way, agile way or things like that.
Yeah, thank you for that. Kulsum, is that how you pronounce your
Yes,
name?
that's correct. Thanks.
So what I really like about what you're saying is the idea of making sure you're communicating the why. So again, that's the connection of strategy to the makers. And also you have this other direction that information needs to flow from the makers up to the steerers. The steerers sometimes have a great distance between them and the makers, and they don't see what they need to see. And the makers have much more immediate information about how things are going, perhaps changes in the marketplace, customer needs, that kind of stuff.
Plus, you tend to empathize with the makers because at least if you're a scrum master, you spend most of your time in a traditional leadership, you spend most of your time protecting the makers from those upper layers.
Yeah. So what's the impact of protecting them?
It's allowing them to do their work and still have the information they need.
But you're also
and getting rid
reinforcing
of
their
blockers.
isolation.
Oh, sorry. You were talking over each other. Jason,
Go
did
ahead.
I was just going to say, at the same time, you're kind of reinforcing that isolation if you're protecting them.
That's the thought that ran through my head too. So it's worth thinking about, right? And so as a change agent, part of what you're trying to do is to be able to influence people. And what's the number one thing you need to influence people as you are trying to create healthy change? It's the number one factor.
Explain the why we need to change.
Yes, and trust. So Vivek put it in chat. You have to have trust with people, and to do that, you have to understand them, you have to listen to them, and you have to understand what they're trying to accomplish. Oh, bye, Brad. Thank you. So if you look over this board, look at what life is like for people at these various levels. Are they leading simple lives? No, not at any of these levels. And I really liked getting my voice heard or a seat at the table and getting recognition for my work show up here, because there's always some sort of personal motivation happening for people. And if you can align that personal motivation with what you're trying to do with your agile transformation, then you've got, again, what Esther Derby calls congruence, where people's internal values are in alignment with the external world. So good things happen there. So when we talk about these three areas, we also talk about the 3 C's. So the 3 C's are clarity, conditions, and constraints. And let me zoom in a little bit for those of you on phones. And so these are kind of guiding questions or concerns.
You may need to share your screen again, Erika.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, thanks. I always do that at one point in any talk. It's guaranteed. Okay. Can you see it now?
Yes.
Okay. And I'll summon everybody too, just for fun, because I can do that. Okay. So clarity, conditions, and constraints. And so we think that they are different at the different levels. So when you're trying to steer the ocean liner, you have to answer some basic questions: why you are, what kind of relationships you have within the organization, between organizations, with the larger community around the organization. What's your value prop? Really a fundamental issue in terms of staying profitable, and how are you going to position your products and services in the market? So big questions that will impact everything else in the pyramid. The conditions are going to be focused on macro level things, key policies, and then the constraints. And the way I think about constraints is the box that enables everything to happen. It's because I have an MFA in poetry, and when we talk about form, the form of a poem is what creates innovation. It creates creativity because you have to kind of fight with the form. So these constraints, you can think about that way. They're a scaffolding or a safety net. And so you want guiding principles to be helping the folks doing steering to aim in the right direction. And as they're needing to make decisions, they want to be referring back to those guiding principles, and so on and so forth. And so we have at each of these levels a different set of concerns and different sets of conditions. And so you can see most notably the steering level is macro level, the enabling enhancing is about team of teams. So how are teams connecting to each other? How is work flowing into the teams from other places and probably between teams? Any cross-cutting issues? And so they have their focus at a different level. They're not at the 10,000 foot level. They're maybe at the 1,000 foot level, and the makers are on the ground. Oh, sorry. Did someone have a question? Okay, you might want to mute. I'm not sure who that was. So this is to help us, let's say we have a leader in front of us. We can start to identify, okay, where do we think they are? What are they focusing on? Are they focusing on the most effective set of concerns for their position? So if you have a maker who's hyper concerned about steering, they may be wasting their energy in terms of the best placement of it. Or if we have an enabler and enhancer who's micromanaging down at the team level, we may want to encourage them to think about other things. But it would help ultimately to understand why they're doing what they're doing. Make sense? Okay, so there's another thing we can layer on top of this, which is that when you're looking at these different levels of concerns, you may see different things. So if you're focused at the making layer, you're going to see the day-to-day events, the things that happen. If you are talking to enablers and enhancers, because they're working across multiple groups, we may see patterns of behavior coming up, or patterns of delivery coming up, or patterns of defects coming up. And so those patterns tell us things about our system. And people at that level may or may not be looking at the patterns. So part of what you can do is talk to them about the patterns that you're seeing and see if you can help them gain insight. And again, at the steering level, it's about large scale dynamics. So how are things playing out across the whole organization? And each of these things are going to be part of culture. So questions about any of that? Okay, so now I'm doing the thing that we've all been doing anyway. Esther would not approve, okay, because she really emphasizes when she talks about this model that it's a fractal and that you will have steering, enabling, enhancing, and making at the team level. And you don't want to lose sight of that. But for the rest of this talk, we are going to go ahead and look at that highest level, the organization as the highest level of the fractal, and just understand that these activities are happening at a lower level. So what we're going to talk about is these 4 levels of leaders. There can be many more. In some organizations, there are, I don't know, 10, 12, 15 levels of leaders. But the basic gist of it is we want to focus on the leader who leads individuals and teams and what they need, the leader of those leaders, the leader of leaders. And at the highest level, we're going to talk about today the leader of leaders of leaders of leaders. And so I have only had a couple of small opportunities to work with folks at that level. That's probably true for you too. So we don't need to be overly concerned with them. I want you to focus on the leaders who you're most likely to interact with. And so we're going to do another exercise here. So this is another way of looking at the same exercise we just did, but we're refining it a little bit based on what we just did. And we're adding in these levels of leaders, of leaders, of leaders, of leaders. And I could not resist putting LOL in for the because it's funny and it keeps me happy. So what you're going to do in your groups is you're going to start with these stickies, and you're going to say, for instance, dealing with politics. Well, actually, this is the one I wanted to pull up. Dealing with lack of visibility due to distance and filtering. Let me zoom in a little bit for this. So what level do you think that this is typically happening at? Dealing with lack of visibility due to distance and filtering.
The maker.
Steering.
Okay, I heard maker and I heard, what was the other?
Steering.
Steering. So the intention here was for steering, but I think there's a really good argument to be made for making as well. So I just copied it. And so you can do that too. If you see something that's happening in multiple areas, go ahead and put it there. And if you see something that's on the border between two sections, you can put it there. Make sense? Okay. And so you'll get into your groups and you'll work with these, and then you're going to add to it. So go back and look at the other exercise if you want. This exercise is number 15 on the outline, and the other exercise is number 11. So you could bounce back and forth. We're going to try to come up with a more refined model here. So questions about what we're doing?
Are all the groups going to be fighting for those gray boxes, or?
Yes, sir. And
Okay.
that's part of the fun. And so one of my favorite exercises to run in a class is to have people not talk and to move around a bunch of cards into a sort. And if they disagree, then they politely take the card and move it to another place. So please don't play tug of war over the stickies because it just won't work. But you're welcome to move somebody else's sticky, and then you'll notice it in your group and you'll be like, why are they moving that? And then you'll talk about it. So that's a good outcome. Okay, ready to go?
Unfortunately, I gotta go. Erica, I've enjoyed this. I'll
Okay.
catch you soon.
Bye, Jason. Thanks. So Sherry, are you ready with breakout rooms?
Yep, everybody can join their own room again.
Thank you. Okay. So for folks in the main room, hello, hello, hello again. I think our membership is shifting a little bit. Lori, Tracy, are you still here?
Yes.
Yes.
And William, are you still with us?
Yes, I am.
Okay, good. And then others, if you're here and listening, please chime in so we know to include you in the conversation.
Eric Collins is here. I'm confused by this Zoom layout. But anyways, I'm here. Yep, I'm here.
Okay, so here's the deal. We are being a demonstration room because the recording doesn't catch the breakout rooms. So we are doing a breakout room in here, but because we have several people who are on phone and can't interact with Mural, I am being a scribe. So watch the screen and we'll talk things through. So we see people are sorting some things. Let's look at some of these. I'm just picking this one up randomly. Dealing with strong and sometimes willful directs. So what level do you think that might apply to? Strong and sometimes willful direct reports.
That could be making or steering. Well,
I think it's steering, halfway between steering and enabling. But
Oh, like right here.
yeah.
Okay. How do the rest of you feel about that? Anyone want to make an argument for something else?
yeah, I'd like to say that I think it belongs in making too, because I've run into a lot of divas at the making level.
Mhm.
And Erica, you and I have talked about that.
Yeah. Does anyone want to fight that, or should I copy it and put it in both places?
Well, this is Bill. I would vote for making two, just because you know, I have had more of those kinds of folks when I'm working at that particular level than I've had when I'm working at a steering level, but that's just my experience. So
Okay.
it could be different for someone else.
Okay, terrific.
Yeah, I agree with Macon. They're great
Yeah.
to work with, but you got to make sure they're pointed in the right direction.
Okay, great. Okay, so they all got placed. There's one in here that's popping out to me that I want to ask you guys about. This is dealing with loneliness, lack of peer support, etc. So which level is going to have the most peers?
Making.
Yeah,
Okay.
making,
And which will have the fewest?
steering.
So I think we should, I'm just moving this one. I want to see if anybody has a problem with it.
I'm with you.
Yeah. So let's look at what's here then and see, yeah, things are starting to move around. Is there anything else that needs to be moved? Am I in far enough for you to see?
Yeah, that's better.
Okay. So in cases where there used to be an individual contributor, overcoming the I could do it faster myself instinct. So this was in an enabling and enhancing. Wow, my brain just shut off. Do you think that it's in the right place at that level?
This is just one of my biggest challenges.
Yeah, I agree with that too.
So it does make sense at enabling and enhancing.
Mm-hmm.
What about the team manager? So the leader of individuals and teams. How often are they people who used to be an individual contributor? Bueller.
We've got about 2 more minutes.
Okay.
Could you re-ask the question, Erika?
Yeah, so enabling and enhancing are leaders, they're people who are focusing on teams of teams. When we're at the making level and we're focusing on teams or individuals, like a single team that reports up through a team manager, how often are those people who used to be individual contributors?
Oh, most of them.
Most of them, yeah. And so
Just at level 1.
yeah, level 1, the level 1 leaders, the LOINT, leaders of individuals and teams. Okay, anything else so who does the hiring and firing?
Probably a combination of making and enabling and enhancing.
Okay, so move that there. Okay, so is there anything that you'd like to add to this? Lack of communication is getting put all over the board because that's fun. We've all felt it.
That's my biggest gripe in most business settings is how do you communicate things to people effectively?
Well, and think about that because it's a different kind of communication at each of these levels, right? So what kind of communication is likely at the making level? How big is the group you're communicating with? Bueller.
I mean, it's usually small. Like my team right now is around 10 people. But
Yeah.
it kind of goes back to one of my comments earlier is it's very clear that certain people on my team are just signing in, collecting a paycheck and going home. And they're not picking up on communication because they're completely checked out. They're doing the bare minimum to not get fired.
Yeah. Okay, so people are
I
rejoining.
have to.
Oh, go ahead.
I have to have a conversation with someone tomorrow because they did not follow team agreements on how to take time off. And yeah.
Okay. Why does this thing keep coming up? Okay.
I've
So
asked people to rejoin the main room.
great. Thank you. I saw that. Okay. So there was some moving around of cards. So there was a little controversy, which is super. So what did you learn from this? What was an aha you had or some sort of insight?
I think that at various levels, some of the same things happen, and it just depends on the scope at which you're talking.
Yeah. So lack of communication, which I saw show up on the board, no surprise there, is one of those perfect examples. Because if you're communicating at the making level, you're communicating with one-on-one with individuals or with a team, within a team. And if you move into communicating between teams, you're probably moving up into enabling and enhancing. So the scope goes up, and what's the communication like at the steering level? How big a group are you communicating with there? Potentially 100,000 people, depending, on the size of the organization, it will vary greatly, but again, at a fractal level, it will vary greatly. But you need different communication skills at that level, and you will have different communication challenges at that level. Okay, what else came up for you?
I mean, Erica, in my experience, it's the lower levels that complain about lack of communication. I rarely hear that at the higher levels, right? But
Yeah.
I'm not saying it doesn't happen, but it's not the complaint that I would hear.
Okay, thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
So what kind of complaint would you hear at that level that might be related?
Well, I think it's interesting to me, the loneliness happens more at the top because there's a lack of communication in that respect, in that, like, I don't want to appear a certain way. Whereas at the bottom levels, the complaint of lack of communication is more about not understanding how decisions were made, is my experience, is what that really means.
So what I have heard at those higher levels is I can't see what's going on my teams. I don't know the true status of this project. So there's kind of a mirror there, that communication is not going back up the stack because of what's sometimes called the contract game, where people are spreading sunshine up. And so they don't talk about all the small problems as communication goes up the hierarchy, partly because they want to look good to their leaders. Okay. How are we doing on time, Sherry? I think we're probably a little bit over. Is that true?
We were about 7 minutes to wrapping.
Oh, okay. So I'm going to show you this last section here, and it's built on the same kind of pattern. But the basic gist of, so the guiding ideas, I think, that I work with for working with these different levels is, at the steering level, these folks are busy, busy, busy. They're thinking big thoughts. You don't want to waste their time because they've got everything coming at them from all angles. But you do want to treat them like humans. Don't forget that even if they have a big title and they're very well polished and all the things that are needed for executive presence, that they're people. And so this is why thinking about their pain points, or even better, asking them about their pain points, is really useful for building trust. and for them allowing you to participate as a change agent in their context. So you'll notice that on this, there's a lot of showing empathy, asking what their pain points are, research and clarify desired outcomes at this level, and be patient with everybody's learning curve. For those of you who are familiar with the Satir change curve, everybody going through change goes through different phases as they go through that change, some faster, some slower, some get stuck, but that's true at all levels of the organization. So we don't want to go in and preach. We want to go in and figure out what problems they're trying to solve, and then look into our toolkit and see what we can help with, whether that's teaching or coaching or implementing. A lot of them ask us to implement. So for the enabling and enhancing level, the guiding idea here is to help them align teams towards a shared purpose. So the shared purpose will be coming from the steering level, and they may need help aligning those teams. And there are plenty of Agile practices that help with that at the system or team of teams level. Big room planning or PI planning is one of the obvious ones. These folks may not be seeing things clearly. And so one of the things you can do to really help them is to highlight problems that they're not aware of. And then at the making level, again, you have often people who were individual contributors and they've now moved into a leadership position. They may have that I can do it faster instinct, and they may not have a lot of training in leadership yet. And so you can switch gears and help them be a more effective leader, again, in line with what their pain points are. So a lot of encouragement and validation as they're learning. And I also put in here, avoid the temptation to become friends or organizational allies with them. Make sure to maintain a little bit of distance and hold on to your position as an Agile expert. So some ideas about concepts you could teach here. And this is really a little bit random, but these are things that came to mind. I want you to all feel free to go in and add things here that you think are good concepts at various levels. I have not done a lot of executive level coaching. I've played more up to the SVP level, but I'm sure there's good material at that level. There's a book that came out recently called Executive Loneliness. So I think that's something they're probably all reading. But anything that you have that you want to add here would be great. And services that you can offer. And so I'm thinking in terms of workshops or a particular focus of coaching. One of the things that I've been asked to do when I'm working with more senior leaders is to provide things for slide decks for them. So I try to do that as collaboratively as possible, but they often ask the Agile coach for progress reports in the form of dashboards or explanatory slides. So feel free to pull from this stack over here and just add some stuff in. And I've also provided here a huge list of things to read someday, which is by no means exhaustive, but these are things that you might be able to use in influencing leaders. One of the particularly interesting ones here is this Japanese concept of nemawashi, which is about preparing the ground for gardening. And so when you're dealing with, that one shows up here. Where is it? Nemawashi. Did it not show up here? Maybe we need to add it. So the idea of preparing the ground needs to happen at several different levels. It's a lean concept, but the idea is to get buy-in and consensus about the change that you're about to implement. So if you want to set up your transformation for success or your adoption on an individual team for success, you want to pay attention and look at what needs to happen to create that buy-in so that everybody's moving in the same direction. And so you certainly need that at the steering level. You want to make sure that executive leadership is on board but it also applies all the way down the stack, I think. Thoughts? What's coming up for you?
I'm looking forward to going back and taking another look at this board.
Yeah, so let's just take the rest of the time here. I think we still have a few more minutes. We can just talk about it as a group because people are kind of winding down and there's not a whole lot of energy in the room at this point. Is there anything that's popping out to you that you're curious about or that's an aha for you? Here's Nemawashi.
As we were moving stickies around, I just had this moment where I realized one level might be causing that, but all the other levels are experiencing it. So depending on whether you looked at the card as an actor or somebody who's impacted by it, all the cards go everywhere.
Yeah, no, really, really appreciate that comment. That's how I think about it too. It's all interconnected. And so as you're looking at your system, you may be looking at where can I pull a thread here and see if I can make this go better. Yeah, thank you. What else is up for you? Thoughts? So is there, what part of this do you think you might use in the next week or two? Kulsum, you have the mural, so the link is there for you. I will leave it up for at least 6 months. So you can go back and refer to it, take screenshots, do what you need to do.
Awesome. Thank you.
This is really helpful, Erica. I was explaining in the group I was in that I'm going to start looking at the same model with my manager tomorrow. We have a one-on-one, and because it's applicable now, dealing with some issues that we're seeing. So
Definitely find the video in here for Esther on that. The rethinking middle management here.
Yeah.
And she also has a video on it, and that'll give you more depth because I don't do Esther's model justice. I made it superficial. This is the kindergarten version, okay? And Esther is a very smart woman, but you will enjoy the way she presents it, and that you can take to your leaders.
Wonderful, thank you.
Okay. If there are no more questions, I want to thank you all very much for being here. I appreciate your engagement, and this was a really fun session for me. Lots of good conversation. So thanks for being here. Have a wonderful evening, and feel free to reach out to me. My website is on the mural. Feel free to reach out to me if you have any questions or want to talk about anything.
Thank you so much, Erica.
Thank you.
Thank you, Erika. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Erika.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.